Hey there, everybody. Tiger here. Welcome to the Tiger Nexus podcast. In this episode, I managed to actually interview Brent, the creator and founder of Impound Comics. I have a list secretly stashed somewhere with a list of like the big TikTokers and Instagram influencers that I follow that I really wanted to interview on my podcast. And Brent is actually one of the top people. So I'm really glad I managed to get him on. I managed to hook him on his live stream, and I managed to catch him there, and I managed to ask him, and he said yeah. And here we go. This is our interview. This is where I talk about I ask him questions about Impound, which is his own comic book series, so make sure you go check it out after this. Of course, it's a fantastic world he's building, and it's still growing. It's been a couple days since I recorded with him, and since then his animated movie has got some really big voice actors involved. The voice actor for Killer Bee being one of them, which I wish happened before we recorded, but he managed to get the voice actor from Killer Bee from Naruto, is now working on the animated movie, which is fantastic. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, I do have to quick warning, and it isn't me this time. Brent audio does kind of doesn't go bad, it's just very higgledy-piggledy, so just be warned on that. So thank you guys for tuning in, and of course, enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Tiger Nexus podcast, a place where you'll find interviews with content creators and geeks alike. Your host, Tiger, has delved upon the Nexus and found interesting content creators and geeks of all fandoms. This podcast is connected to the Zero Hero Network. And now, we dive in with another episode!
Right, okay. It's picking me up. Why is it not picking you up? That's confusing. Can you say... there you go. Right, okay. It was just, it didn't pick up your microphone because you didn't say anything. I was really confused. I was like, why is this not working?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's picking me up still? We're good?
Yeah, picking up now, yeah. It's just because you didn't say anything on my end, it didn't say anything. I was like, hang on, why is this not working? I started to panic then, we're all good.
It's all good.
Okay, right, let's do this. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Tiger Nexus podcast. Today, I've got a very interesting episode for you. I have a very special guest. Today, we are talking with someone who's actually done something that a lot of us have wanted to do, what I've deemed impossible to do. This person's managed to get their own comic book out. It's published. You can read it yourself. It's fantastic what I've read so far. This is Brent. He's made the Impound Comics. Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good, mate. Thank you very much for joining us on today's episode. I will tell you this, when I first made the podcast beginning of the year, I kind of made a list for myself of like people that it's my bucket list of like people I'd want on, and you're definitely on that bucket list.
Well, I'm glad that I made it, man. I'm glad I'm sitting here we're online. We were e-meeting, but being able to talk to you.
Yeah, man. Awesome. So can you kind of give us you don't have to go into too much detail if you don't want to, but can you give us a bit of an introduction to the Impound comic? What is it? What can people expect if they pick up the Impound comic?
Impound Comics is, we're an indie. We have over 9 titles right now about different characters, including children's books and other fictional characters in our universe. Impound is the name of the brand and our flagship. So his story and everyone else's story differs, but they all eventually will come together at some point. It started in 2020 with the first character, and as we went, people just seemed to enjoy it. So I started adding other elements. People asked questions, and it made me write more stories, and then we became a universe almost accidentally. It was mainly only meant to be about Impound, and now here we are.
Yeah, it's come. I've been following you for a little while now, and you've got you show off the characters. They all look really cool. I think my favorite character is the one who has the ability to make his tattoos reality.
Yeah,
I really
that
love his
character's
design.
blasted.
Yeah, I really like him. He's really cool. I love his design. He looks terrifying. He looks like he could royally mess people up.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. That's what I was going for.
yeah, I love the colors you've chosen for the effects of his abilities. It's very vibrant. It's a gorgeous color. So yeah, I think Blast is my favorite character so far.
Appreciate you.
So you said that this started in a couple of years ago, but the character Impound himself, when did that start? Is that the same year, or did you have like the idea of Impound beforehand?
I had the idea in 2018, but I didn't do anything with it until 2020.
So what
So
made you
2020
do
was the
comic
release
books?
of Impound One.
What made you go to the comic book route? You know, what was the deciding factor to go into the comic book industry?
Seeing the Black Panther film definitely was a heavy influence on that. I was always a writer, but I didn't think about writing a comic book. I was only writing like novels and movie scripts. But the Black Panther movie made me want to transition to comic books in order to one day get the movie.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Black Panther did a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely did. It definitely broke a lot of like stigmas. You know what I mean? It definitely
Absolutely.
made a group of people who probably weren't excited about the comic book space become excited, or people who have secretly been nerds come public and let everybody know that this is who I am, type of thing. You know what I mean? They added a cool factor that I think a lot of other characters were incapable of adding. So like I said, it made people say, you know what, I like this genre, and I kind of want to be more involved in it. And I was definitely one of those people.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Black Panther. I've spoken to a lot of people, and I think Black Panther's one of the more impactful films in all cases. Not just becoming a content creator or like someone who tells their own stories, whatever, but just in so many ways. R.I.P. to Chadwick Boseman for sure.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, man. He was the GOAT.
yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to Impound himself, can you give us a bit of a backstory? Who is he? What can he do? Do you want to give like the people just a bit of like kind of like a blurb of like who he is?
Impound is a single father. He's literally a tow truck driver, which is what the name Impound comes from. Um, he's an inspiring MMA fighter above all things, and he uses his tow trucking job to fund his career. And then Impound also became his name in the octagon, kind of like a joke, but it caught on because of mostly his daughter started calling him Impound, and he ends up finally getting the notoriety that he's been looking for by consistently winning, and that his victories ends up leading him against a fighter that's represented by the city's mafia, and that's kind of where the conflict between him and them begins.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've always liked what I've seen with what you've done with Impound and stuff. I like the fact you made him a dad. I like that. That's really cool. I'm a dad myself. I've got a 5-year-old boy, and I don't know. I kind of like having that representation that there's fathers out there becoming superheroes or heroes in some way. I like that.
Right.
That's cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like. What made you go down the MMA fighting route? What kind of inspired that?
We have a big MMA culture here in Sacramento, so
Oh,
Impound is
okay.
is considered Sacramento's first superhero. But our MMA culture is also a little bit underappreciated. I also thought it was different. I didn't know too many characters that have already taken that route, so that was a big part of that as well. Was the uniqueness, but it also had a purpose for a mission of mine to promote Sacramento's MMA culture.
That's actually really cool how you kind of like tied that in. I like that a lot. you've definitely put, you can see the time and effort that you've kind of put into this.
Yeah, absolutely. You write stories that mean something. That's how you. I mean, I just think that's better writing, and it also makes it easier to fill in gaps and loopholes when you're taking reality into it versus trying to just make everything fictional.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So, would you say Impound, the whole universe that you've created, is it inspired by any form of fiction, or do you think
Yeah,
you've tried your
absolutely.
best to delve away from that?
It's impossible to not be inspired by other things.
Very
No
true.
one in this world has 100% originality. It doesn't exist. Even if you didn't realize it was similar to something, you tell me your story, I can tell you what's similar. So
Yeah.
all you do is try to take something that inspires you, put a twist to it, and make it your own. But there's the inspiration of each character and each reasoning. Goes for a mile. So it's. I definitely think I had in my mind Spawn, Mortal Kombat as kind of like the backdrop of what type of world I wanted it to be. Very much darker than most things, but yeah, the inspiration. There's a different inspiration for every piece of them, including every other character.
Yeah,
Mostly a melting pot of my favorite things.
yeah, I think you're very right on the fact that, as much as some people would like to believe that, their stories are 100% original, sadly, we're now in a day and age where not even movies can be original anymore because they just seem to rip off other movies and TV shows and stuff. We're kind of at that point now, but at least when we do get inspired by something, you can at least make it original as possible, and that's what you've done with Impound and your universe. So with the rest of the characters in your main kind of, like you said, you got, how many issues did you say you've got at the minute out now?
We have 18 books now.
That how long does it take to actually get a book kind of like, where you've gone from the drawing board to it being released? What is kind of like your time frame on that?
Everything is different. There is no like set number. Every illustrator is slower or faster than each other. And some stories I can write relatively quickly. Some stories take me a lot longer. It's I don't have a time limit on anything. I don't even try to act like that's a part of my process because if it's not ready, it's not ready, and when it is, it is. So um, I don't constrain a timer on anything that I do. It'll be done when it's supposed to be.
I really like that thought pattern. I know a lot of people that make content. To be fair, I make content as well, and sometimes I kind of like bully myself into this idea of, well, you're meant to be doing it by this time, and you should, like you said, things happen when they're meant to happen. I agree with that a lot. I like your thought pattern on that. When it comes to, you said that some things take longer than others. Have you ever got writer's block? Have you ever gotten to a point where you're completely stuck on what to do?
I mean, it's almost the same point, not really, because if I don't have it, I'm not even gonna try. I just go back into the world and live my life how without it. And when it comes to me, I'll sit down and write it, but I don't push stories out. I don't it's not a practice that I do. So, like I said, if I don't have it, I just don't have it. I'm not gonna try to figure it out right now.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I respect that.
So I deal with it by not dealing with it.
Yeah, cool. So with, you mentioned, you've got kind of like a bad guy. He's the gold user, right? Isn't that your bad guy? Or am I wrong there?
Yeah, that's Christ Jones is the Joker of our universe, if you will. He was the first villain that I created, and he's Impound's direct nemesis. Yeah.
What was so I just mentioned that he's his gold. Do you want to kind of expand on that? Like, who is he? How come gold is kind of like his motive, sort of thing?
I mean, so in a sense, the metal that he has attached to him is an alien metal. It just so
Ah,
happens to be the color gold. So it's not. actually gold on his body. It was just, an accident made that be how they revived him or how they saved him. And the metal attached to him, now he has control over it. So he could turn his arms into different weapons and different things effortlessly. But it was really a freak accident on how it happened. And his name, Christopher Jones is his actual name, but he shortened it to Christ because, like I said, he had a near-death experience that he survived. So he actually thinks of himself as, a prophecy, if you will.
I like how you've gone down that route. I was actually thinking that when you're explaining it. So, would you say he's rather like egotistical? He's kind of like a bit full of himself a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. He believes he's the reborn. He believes he has a goal on Earth, and he thinks he's a prophet. Literally, he doesn't, and it's no matter how anyone else feels, he truly believes he can't let you stand in his way because he's the one that will save the world, if you will. So that's just a part of his character and his thought process, where almost nothing else matters except for him.
So, what made you go down the route of having a egotistical villain more than, let's say, a crazy supervillain or a villain who's just like out to destroy the planet? What made you go down that specific route?
I got them all. I got all three. They're just not all him.
True.
So I think I like villains with purposes more, or villains that believe they have a purpose. So I think villains like Thanos are just kind of better villains where you can kind of still see their perspective even if you don't agree with it. Um, I just think I prefer that overall, or like just truly understanding why they are the way they are versus just a raging maniac, which those are cool too. I also love those types of villains, but I wanted I wanted my hero and my villain to have a fine line on why they became who they are. They could have
Yeah.
both went either way, type of idea, and I think that's what I was thinking.
I think when it comes to villains, like you said, I'll use Thanos as an example. I think it's also more believable in the world where people fly. You've got people that can throw tanks across the city and all that stuff. Sometimes having a bit more realism is just makes better writing, makes more entertaining, and I think having that sort of grounded realism in a story like that, I think works better personally. So yeah, like you said, you've got all three, but I do like the fact that you do have one character who's a bit more, I don't want to use the word realistic, but I guess that's the best word to use.
Yeah, a little more just logical.
That's the word. Thank you. Logical. That's a good word. Yeah.
Just he's not doing things just because he feels like it. Like he actually has a mission and a purpose, and in a lot of ways, it's right.
So you said that you've got the other two. So who are the other two? When it comes to villains, you said that I mentioned the insane and just ruling the world because of who fits into that category.
Um, I don't know if I have insane, but I definitely have a character that wants to rule the world, and his name is Apep. And Apep is just like the equivalent of Lucifer for Egyptians. So his only goal is to enslave humanity, and that they all worship him. So I definitely have that. There is also other demonic characters that I have that are called the Oswong. They're very similar to like Apep, but from a different culture. And most of my other ones, I would say, are logical. Like there's a certain level of insanity, but it's not just. I don't have like a this human that just tortures animals. I don't have that yet. I don't have just the raging lunatic that didn't take his medicine. I haven't made that character yet, but I eventually will.
I was gonna say, please note that he said yet. He
Yeah,
mentioned the
exactly.
word yet. So when it comes to the characters you have, you mentioned that they all kind of tie in together. So I'm assuming, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming they're like going to become a team, kind of like similar to like Avengers and Justice League, or is it a
Yeah,
case of
absolutely.
they're their team?
Mhm.
Do their team have a name?
They're called the Unbound.
Why that name?
They're not bound by human laws. They're not bound by what they can and can't do. They're able to. The government has cleared them to do whatever they need to do to save the world. So they're called just the Unbound. Like, let them loose.
Fair. So this is gonna be a very strange question, but I'm asking this for the new people that may not know
Oh, good.
what Impound is. Can anyone just pick up the main universe of Impound, or is it like a bit gory? Is it a bit like, I don't want to use the word bloody, but is it like that, or can anyone of any age kind of pick up the main universe of Impound?
It depends on which character's book you're reading. So each character has their own rating, I would say. Seraph, which is like is my rogue assassin character. If it's a Seraph or a Christ Jones book, it'll be extremely gory, blood flying on the pages type of idea. Impound is like pushing that needle, but not as far. And then Lady Monarch would definitely be a more PG version. So it's like it just depends. It depends on the character, but I definitely lean towards more Invincible Mortal Kombat than X-Men '97. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like where it's
yeah.
definitely more. It like my books have cussing in them and they have blood in them.
Again, I do think that kind of makes it more realistic, though, because let's be honest. Name a human being that if they didn't have the power to, I don't know, turn their tattoos alive or shoot lasers from their eyes or, be super strong, it's not going to be, nicey nice, is it? Let's be honest. If you can shoot lasers out your eyes and you accidentally hit someone, you're going to cut them in half.
Yeah,
It's going to be
exactly.
gory and stuff.
Exactly.
So you mentioned Seraph and Lady Monarch. We haven't mentioned them. Obviously you do have some. You are representing the female side of superheroes, which is awesome. So do you want to kind of explain who these people are?
Lady Monarch is a reincarnated Egyptian goddess. She is the natural opposite of the character Apep that I mentioned earlier. So she is the goddess of balance. He's the god of chaos. So she's definitely a more um, modern character, if you will. She was just a female college student influencer type of person until she found out she was actually a reincarnated god. So she's and heavy on social media. She's very bubbly and things like that until the world kind of becomes harsher and she has to adjust to it. Um, who was the other character you asked me about?
Seraph.
Seraph. Yeah, so Seraph is an assassin. Seraph would kind of be like I would say like I call him like our Darth Vader, and he works for Christ Jones as his general. So he originally wasn't supposed to be a standalone. He was more so just a general, and then people started asking about him, so we did his backstory.
I like how you're actually using your social media platform. Like you said, people started asking about it, so that's why you did it. I kind of like how you're talking to your community, people are asking questions. I've seen you do TikToks of like, if Impound met, I think it was DC or something, like who would beat who, that sort of stuff. You're not just sat there, selling a comic, you're getting involved, people are engaging with you. And I think that also really helps with, indie comics. You're very, I mean, hell, the comic name is, your TikTok handle, and stuff
Right,
like
right.
that. So I like the fact that when people ask questions and gets you thinking, and I like how it's kind of had some form of inspiration on you, I guess is the right way to put it. It had some sort of like integrity drawn to you.
Right,
What?
absolutely.
So when it comes to your community and your TikToks and stuff like this, do you ever feel like you have to answer people's questions? You feel like it's a must, or are you just like very easygoing? You answer which questions you want to answer if you have an answer for them.
It's best. If I feel like answering it, I will. Sometimes people ask spoiling questions, so it just depends. I can't answer that, but if I see the question and it's something I can just answer, I do. It just depends. You know what I mean? Like some people ask me stuff that's just like I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? So uh, it just depends. For the
So
most part, though, I try to be as receptive and communicate as much as I can. Some videos go so viral that I just can't even keep up with what's being said in the comments.
fair enough.
That's just the truth, man. Sometimes these comments hit 1,200, and it's just like, there's no way.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair enough. You don't have to answer this next question, but I'm really intrigued. What's the most ridiculous comment you've read that's made you go, "Yeah, I'm not answering that question"?
Um, the most ridiculous question I'll probably answer if I think it's insulting. That's the thing is, like the most ridiculous questions I get, which I get frequently, is why are there so many black characters? But
Oh
any
wow,
person that's
really?
ever asked me that, I make a video and put them on the forefront. So that's not even a question that I won't answer. I'm gonna give you what you want, and they'll eventually delete that comment, but it's out there now.
I can't believe that's actually a question, though.
That was a question that never came into TikTok. I never got that question so much on Instagram, but I think because Instagram is people's profiles and lives are attached to their Instagram,
Yeah,
so they're more afraid to ask that type of thing. But most people's TikToks, it's nothing. Like it has not. Most people make TikTok just to watch, so
yeah.
they don't have anything attached to their personal lives to be afraid of. So people are a lot more bold on TikTok than anywhere else. But I use that as just a means of publicity. So I do it all the time. I think it's honestly happened so much that people stop saying that because they're more of afraid of how I'm going to respond to them. But in the beginning of TikTok, it was every time. Every single time I posted a character, people were asking me that. And the reality of my universe is that a lot of characters aren't African American. There's plenty of characters that aren't African American, but since I'm a black creator, these people just assume all I did was just only make black characters. Of course, we started that way. Of course, I made my characters literally look like people I know. Um, but it's a ridiculous question to ask someone. I don't imagine Stan Lee was getting those questions when he started, and only had white characters. And it's not even something that I've ever even questioned. I've never watched Dragon Ball Z and said, "Why is there so many Japanese characters?" Like I just
Getting
like it's just that's and you know what? I could answer that question on my own. The creator is Japanese. Why wouldn't he do that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it was a really weird question the first time I heard it, because like I said, it was never I've enjoyed so many different animations and cartoons and things of people's cultures or different cultures, and I never questioned why.
Yeah. So has it ever bothered you that people kind of like use the fact that, you're of color, making characters of color, not just, like you said, it's not just African Americans, there's also, you've mentioned Egyptian and stuff like this. Has it ever like just like bothered you in any way that people use that as a weapon, as like a way to like, make digs at you?
Nah, it doesn't bother me at all. I
No,
just
that's good.
I just think those are just stupid people.
Yeah, honestly, I don't understand people sometimes.
Yeah, it's like it's literally never bothered me. Like I've always just looked at it like, well, now I'm about to get 100,000 views from you being stupid, and you're going to be the one that's going to eventually tuck his tail. So nah.
I think there's a few TikTokers that do that. To be honest, that use other people's stupidity to get views and things.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
like, well, hey, you want to go down this road? Let me show you how far this road can go. You know.
so you've mentioned a few characters that are in the Egyptian culture. How come you've used Egyptian? I'm just curious.
I just like ancient Egyptian culture. It's just something that I've always been a fan of. Um, Out of all ancient cultures, I would say it's probably my favorite. So just the idea of pyramids and gold and early technological advances and things like that. I'm just a fan of Egypt, and I'll definitely say what I didn't want to do was do the exact same type of cultures that have already been beat down. So like I didn't want to do Greek gods. I didn't want to do the Viking gods. I didn't want to do the gods that like everybody already it's already been done. You know what I mean? Let's
Yeah.
introduce the world to new gods. So, I did Egyptian ones, and then I have a lot of gods that are from the Mayan culture, which is what Blasted the tattoo character is. So they're just two really powerful ancient dominant societies that a lot of people, at least in America, know nothing about. So I think that was the route I wanted to go.
Yeah, I think you like you said, you didn't want to use cultures that already get hammered down. Thor's in Marvel, God of War's jumped between Norse and Greek and things like
I
this.
mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
Thor's
do
in
it.
DC. A lot of people just don't realize that there's a Thor in every universe.
Yeah, the gods, Norse and Greek, I believe, are the most overused ones. Sometimes there's a good take on them, depending on what it is. But I love Egyptian culture. Um, I've actually got a project of my own, which I kind of have to research a lot about gods. And Egyptian ones have always hooked me. And so when I found out that you're using Egyptian gods, I was like, okay, now see, that's cool. I like
Yeah,
that
it's
because
different. And
yeah, it is.
don't get
It
me
is
wrong,
different.
I love Greek gods and Greek mythology. That's among some of my favorite things to do. But I've found so many stories about it. I just didn't want to do it too. You know what I mean? So I'll
Yeah.
just more so enjoy that as a fan. But I might still bring them in at some point. But like if I was to bring in like Thor to my universe, he probably would be more on the villain end.
Why
It'd
would you
probably
make?
be
I mean, I'm
challenging where
intrigued.
you might
Why would you make him more like a villain? I'm curious.
Just it would be a different twist. I'd make them more like how they did on God of War.
No, that's fair. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I
Mhm.
really
I
enjoyed
just
Thor
think
in God of War.
it would be different enough that it would be more captivating. You know what I mean? I don't want to make the same character, and even if
Yeah,
it's not like a villain, but definitely an antagonist.
that's fair. So going back to Blasted, you said he's Mayan, and that's how he kind of gets his abilities. Is from the god of in it like the god of artwork or something. What's
Got it.
the?
It's literally tattoos. That
Oh,
like
there you go.
yeah. There's a god named a cat that is the god of tattoos in Mayan culture, and
That's awesome.
Blasted is his son.
So whatever's tattooed on his body, he can kind of bring to life, can't he? He can bring it into a physical reality.
Yeah, but it's he has limits to it. He can't bring a person to life, something like that. But um that's the essence of it, absolutely. So his body, I like to look at it like he has the world's greatest utility belt, that's untraceable. You can't take it from him, and he has just a plethora of weapons and items tattooed to himself that he can use.
So I do know this because I have been watching for a while. He whatever's tattooed on him, it comes the size of the tattoo, right? So for
Yeah,
example, if it's a chain and he wants it really long, he's got to have that length tattooed on him to actually be able to use the length that he wants.
exactly. Yeah, so he can't scale his items. It's so he can, he because he doesn't have to be tattooed to him. It just has to be things that he's drawn in ink. So he could put it on a wall and bring out something bigger. But yeah, if he wants to pull a tank, he has to draw it the size of an actual tank. He can't make a small one and pull it bigger.
Okay, that's actually really cool. I like that. I didn't know
I
that
think
you
it'd
could.
be too OP if he could scale stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, that would just imagine if you drew like a tiny little
small
black
missiles on his
dot.
arm.
Yeah, like draw a little black dot. Now that's a dwarf star that you can just pull out and make really big. Black
Yeah,
holes,
you could
that
call
sort
a
of stuff.
giant or something like that. Just too
Yeah,
much. So I
yeah.
just didn't want to do it like that. Like he would have to take the time to actually put it together that way in order to do it. But you give him time, you give him prep time. You meet him in his alley, you're gonna be in trouble.
So when it comes to Blasted, and you said that he's from Mayan, like you said, he's the son of the god of tattoos. Did the idea of using someone who can draw something to life come first, or did the finding the god who is the god of tattoos come first?
The power came first. TikTok actually helped me with the God.
Oh,
So
okay.
I had the power for a while, and I couldn't really understand how he would get that power or what it'd be called. I literally made a video and asked TikTok to help, and people just started putting comments. And then one person said, one person told me that ability is called melanokinesis. Like someone commented that. I Googled it, saw that they were right. And then someone else commented, I'm pretty sure the Aztecs have a god that is the god of tattoos. And then I was like, no way. And then I Googled that, and he's Mayan. Aztec and Mayan, they're in the same land, but they're separated by a few thousand years. But it was a Mayan god, and then that was that. So that's how I finished his story. But I had the power and the ability before. So even the fact that he's Hispanic, because Blasted is Mexican, I didn't have a race for him until he was Mayan, because ancient Maya even is modern Mexico. So all that came after. But yeah, no, like the completion of that story is credited to random people on TikTok.
See, I like that a lot. I like the fact how, again, like I said, your community, you work with them, you talk to them and stuff, and you manage to basically fill a gap in your character via, just making a video on TikTok. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, thank you. TikTok can be a reliable source sometimes.
It can, yeah. TikTok, I find TikTok's very 50-50. You're either on the side of TikTok, which is really well done, you're very positive and stuff, or you can be on the side of TikTok, which are just full of negative
nonsense.
Yeah, nonsense. Yeah, I think nonsense is the right word. Yeah, that's very true. So with Blasted and his tattoos and stuff, you've mentioned the fact that his dad is the god of tattoo. Is your god, when you bring in the fact that you're using gods and stuff, are they alive? Are they can he talk to his dad? Are they actually around like Thor and Marvel and stuff like this? Or is it a case of, the gods aren't around, but their offsprings are?
It depends. Lady Monarch's parents. Lady Monarch god is the last of her god realms, because Apex killed all of her gods. Yeah. Mayan for Blasted, his gods are around still, but he's never spoke to his dad. He doesn't know anything about his dad other than what he's been told, because he was kind of born in like a Virgin Mary type of idea, where his mother and his human father has met a cat, but he hasn't returned since he pretty much gifted them the son of a god. But eventually, yes, they'll come in contact.
So has he always had the ability to bring things to life if he drew them?
Yeah, he was born with it.
So one day he just started doodling in his school book, and it's just come to life.
Yeah, that's almost exactly what happened.
Oh wow!
So
okay.
he discovered it in elementary school or preschool. So literally drawing squares and bringing them out of the page in front of the class type of idea was how he discovered it. And his teacher just kind of, was like, I don't know what kind of kid this is, but he's something special. So I need to tell him to stop doing that. she's like, I'm not going to say anything because I believe he has a purpose in this world, but you guys have to hide this because he can't keep doing that, basically. So that also started his villain's origin story. because everyone else was, they're all preschool kids. So they, when they went home and told their parents, their kids, their parents don't believe that. And then the teachers intentionally not telling them the truth. They're saying, teachers telling them, nah, he's just a kid. They're just making up their preschool stories. But one of the kids never lets it go. And he gets older and they start telling him he's crazy. They start putting him in crazy houses and psychiatrists and priests and all these things. But he's like, I know what I saw. And that kid pulled some shit off that paper, So that's one of his main villains' origin story, actually, because he was in the class with him.
Hello, fellow listeners. Are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then I will begin. I'm going to read you a story of ancient beings of time and light, of group of champions flying in their metal shells, of great warriors and their epic mechs of evil villains, of darkness and terror. Come join me, the Red Cornish Ranger, as I present Nerds Through Comics, an epic telling of your classic comics and graphic novels. Please come sit comfortably and enjoy Nerds Through Comics from the Zero to Hero Network.
I really like that. That's really cool. I like that a lot. So with your ongoing universe and stuff, okay, your main universe, like you said, you got a few different things. With your comics that you've already done, how many comic books as of now is there planned? Like, are you like quite far in the storyline, or like are you playing catch up, or like, what's where are you kind of standing on what is there to do?
I mean, I don't have a number. It's never going to end necessarily. It'll be end of different sagas and chapters, but every character story is just going to always continue. It's just that process of getting it done. I would say everyone is still pretty early in their stories, though.
Yeah.
Impound has 5 books. Seraph has 3, but he's also in the Impound books. And then everyone else is 2 books in. So everyone is still relatively early in their stories.
Would you ever consider doing like the Sam Wilson becoming Captain America sort of storyline, where one of your characters kind of gets
the mantle?
Yeah, kind of like, someone else takes their mantle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure. I've already kind of considered it. I've considered what ifs and things like that as well. But yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Do you have like plans for like some major big time, Thanos snapping, Dark Side invading, sort of like big apocalyptic events?
Yeah, we already have that character as well, who also has he's pretty much in 4 books. But yeah, the setup for our character like that is already in the books. He's deep in outer space, and it's a character named Decimus.
What a name! That sounds dope. He sounds like a supervillain.
Well, yeah, he's named after an ancient Roman. There's a Roman named Decimus Brutus that is a part of the assassination of Julius Caesar. So he's literally named after that character, and we titled him the Killer of Kings for that same reason.
That I really like the way you managed to tie things together. The little kind of like little specks of information you've managed to pull together. It's really intriguing. I've always enjoyed listening to you talk about Impound and things. Hence why I wanted you on the podcast. What you mentioned, at the beginning, that you've also done things like children's books and stuff. What made you kind of go down the doing children's books and things?
Just because our books were a little bit too violent for kids. So just coming around with a virgin that kindergartners, parents are comfortable with kindergartners and younger children. So that was the main reason. Just making sure we were covering all the spaces.
I like that. At least you're respectful enough to think of the fact that, not everyone can pick up an Impound book, and, parents aren't going to be. Some parents might, but not all parents are going to be comfortable with their child reading, about assassins and, people killing people and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone's not into it, so just wanted to have just another realm, another virgin, and if that was the if it became more popular, so be it too. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
just trying to have as many pieces on the board as possible.
So one thing I really wanted to mention, because I think it's absolutely fantastic, you're actually turning Impound into an animated movie, aren't you?
Yeah, we are right now. Is the process of doing it? Yes, sir.
And you've actually got one of your characters got a voice actress, and she's been in I don't know what everything she's been in, but I wouldn't say she's 100% well known by everybody, but she's a pretty big, out there voice actress.
Yeah,
You
she's in the industry. Her name is Amber May, and she's played some really dope roles that people love. Um, and it's her being a part of what we're doing definitely makes everything more legitimate. It makes what we're doing get looked at on the level of other animation. So, and she's also just the beginning. We have other voice actors that we're going to be announcing that are more well known. But Amber May fit the role perfectly for Lady Monarch. Um, I love her presence. She's already recorded the whole thing, so we already have it done. But I'm hoping to also grow with her as a voice actor and continue to work with her as we grow.
So, are you adapting the first Impound comic book, or are you adapting what exactly is being turned into the animated movie?
We're adapting the Unbound, so we're adapting our Trinity, the super team.
And what made you go with that first?
We're doing a 1 hour movie. Wanted to hit the people as hard as we could. It may be a standalone, one only thing. So there's no point to me to do an origin story if we don't know if it's going to continue. So we spend the first movie doing an origin, and then we don't have the second one because maybe we sign a deal with a studio, or anything could happen. So I just wanted the first look to be big and epic and memorable. Um, it was just kind of like the idea of Invincible as well. Like Invincible starts with the super team. It starts with the world is already established.
Yeah.
And then they worked on like backstory. So I just wanted to go that route.
That's a fair route to go down. Like you said, this may be a one-time deal. At least if it's a one-time deal, give it everything you've got in it.
Make it a bigger project. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the route I went. And it'll be a good introduction. It's going to be the first film, but it's definitely not going to be the last one. So maybe this one gets picked up, and then we get agreed to do a full animated series. And if we do an animated series, then we'll do it that way. But yeah, it's a one-time punch, so let's punch as hard as we can.
So, what was your thought process when you got the confirmation that you could actually turn your comic book that you made? It's all started with you, your ideas, and it's being turned into something that people can actually watch. What was your mentality?
I've been trying to get there this whole time. It was just more so of just being able to get the budget to be able to do it. So I've been wanting Impound to be some sort of adaptation since the first book, even before the book. So we finally got blessed with the opportunity to be able to do it. So let's do it. I've always known that the books could only take you so far. Eventually, that's the core fan base. That's the audience that sticks with you the longest, but it's not the masses. So
Yeah.
appealing to the masses to me has always been the goal.
And also, when it comes to movies, TV shows, and that sort of stuff, there are so many more fans. Let's use the MCU for an example. There are so many more fans of the MCU who's never picked up a comic book in their life.
Probably 85% of them.
Yeah, exactly. So like the fact that you're doing this big film, and like you said, you're using, the big one, one of the bigger storylines to do it. You may actually get people watching the film, liking it, really liking it, but having no idea that it's a comic book.
Yeah, exactly. And that happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
There's so many people who think that there's a way you're supposed to do stuff, and it's usually people who don't do this. But the reality is there are franchises that started as books. There are franchises that started as animations, but at the end of the day, the animation is what takes it to the next level. Avatar: The Last Airbender was not a book first. It was the cartoon. Star Wars was not a book first. It was the movie. But then Marvel was a book first, so just figuring out what the audience wants from you is a part of the process. But I think everyone, no matter how they're no matter which route they take first, they're trying to get to the big screen with their universe.
So when it comes to the adaptation, I'm assuming that you have like complete free roam, sort of like what goes where, how things happen. There's no one kind of like overtowering you or anyway. I'm assuming you have full creative process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm assuming you wouldn't have it any other way, obviously, because this is kind of like your child in a sense. You kind of made this from the ground up.
It depends. I would definitely want a certain level of input. I definitely have no intentions on ever just selling my universe, but if someone has a great take on it and I can see that, I'm open to the idea, but I wouldn't ever just let someone else just take the whole thing because my characters are still so new. There's no way you understand them well enough. You know what I mean? So, Spider-Man's been around so long that they're just fans that understand that character and could adapt them. But mine, you haven't seen enough of my characters to know them that well,
And also, Spider-Man's had like so many different story writers and people doing different takes on him, and he's been around for a very long time. So yeah, that's right. A fair statement, for sure. So I've seen people draw like artwork of Impound and some of your other characters. What's it like knowing that there's people that like your comic book so much they want to take their time and their dedication into making fan art and stuff of your work?
No, that's always a huge honor. That's always like a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? It makes you happy, that your message is being received. I encourage people to do it. I try to promote it every single time someone does do it. So, it's I love it. I love it,
Yeah, I've definitely seen a few people draw Impound and stuff, and there are actually some really good artists out there that I think they may not get the picture exactly right, because obviously every artist is different, but you can definitely tell that they've tried to capture your art style, your vision as well as they can. And yeah, I mean, the fact that you're encouraging of it, and I've seen you actually share it on your Instagram and stuff as well. You're basically you're promoting creativity, which is fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate that, brother.
And I think when it comes to content creators, people should be doing stuff like that. We should be. I wanted you on the podcast because I wanted new people to come find you, and I've spoken to a few people, and I'm like, oh, I've got Impound Comics on the podcast, and everyone's like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, well, you're gonna find out.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate
it. So like, this is like one of the reasons why I wanted you on, and because you're a big time person on TikTok and Instagram, people that like your comics and stuff may come to me, and that helps me out. It's a two-way street. Sure. So the fact that you're willing, and you've even reposted some of the artwork and stuff, it's you've definitely got a very good outlook on being a content creator and you start from the ground up, and like you said, you're going down the movie route. Your comics are still going, and you could have done the complete opposite. You could have gone, no, I don't like how I'm drawing my characters. They're mine. Leave them alone. But you're not. You're doing the best thing
that's
possible.
not even realistic. It's like, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's gonna happen. Like, now, it'd be messed up if they were drawing them like just getting beat up by everybody, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's very true. So you've done a few TikTok videos where you talk about your characters kind of like fighting or interacting with big time characters like Marvel, DC, Invincible and stuff like that. What kind of made you be? How come you're not going down the route of my character could beat this person, but you're not? You actually take it very realistic. How come you're? Well, not how come, but like what made you think that being the I guess the word I'm looking for is like the more approachable way of doing it, because there are some people out there that go, oh no, my character can be everybody. Look at Goku stands. Everyone thinks Goku can beat everybody and things like this. How come you're not like that? How come you are willing to sit there and say, well, I think this character could kick the crap into Impound?
Just trying to do versus battles. I mean, I do versus all the time. I think credibility is more important than clout chasing. Not trying to be the person that just gets on everyone's nerves about it, because I don't think that approach works. Unless until you get to a certain level where you can say it, but I don't know. It's just being realistic about it, being realistic in the fiction. So it's just, I can't stand those types of people that do that, so that's why I don't do that.
That's a very fair statement. So, talking about your characters meeting other characters with Blasted, you said whatever he draws comes to life, but obviously it's got to be realistic size and stuff. So keeping Blasted restriction. If he ever met a Star Wars character with a lightsaber, if he drew the lightsaber like just the handle, would it work as a lightsaber, or do he have to draw the blade as well?
It's when it comes to Blasted, he would absolutely have to meet this person and touch their weapon. You can't just make up shit in his head. If he drew a lightsaber right now, it would be a toy lightsaber, because that's not a real material. It doesn't exist in his brain or whatever. So for him to draw Thor's hammer, he would have to actually meet Thor and touch his hammer. But yes, he can do it after it becomes real to him. But no, he can't just make it up out of the blue. But like I said, if a Jedi handed him his lightsaber, then yes, he could absolutely make it.
So let's say, let's just paint a picture here. Blasted meets, Anakin Skywalker in person. He touches his lightsaber and stuff. That way, then he'd better draw a lightsaber. Would his lightsaber, let's say he met Anakin and his lightsaber was blue, and he touches Anakin's blue lightsaber. If he drew a lightsaber, would his lightsaber automatically be blue because he's touched a blue lightsaber?
Well, I mean, it would be blue, but everything he does glows red. So that's already his thing. So it would be blue with a red outer glow. But yes, he can make it blue. Yeah. But
would he better change the color of the light? Like, okay, keep the red hue, of course, but would he better make it change color, or is it because he's touched a blue lightsaber, it has to be blue?
I would look at it like he has control over what color he actually wants to make it. But he can't escape the red. You know what I mean? But of course, I think he would still have control over that part of it.
Fair. Do you think? You said that Lady Monarch's like an assassin. She's kind of badass. Would she barely get the drop on Batman?
Lady Monarch's not an assassin. Seraph is.
Sorry, Seraph is the assassin.
Yeah.
Would Seraph better get the drop on Batman?
It'd be. I mean, if Batman has no idea he's coming, absolutely. Seraph can teleport like Nightcrawler, but Seraph is kind of a character that he's also very arrogant. So that's the flaw in that character is his arrogance. But he's definitely capable of getting to him, especially if Batman doesn't know he's coming. But it's if Batman is prepared, he's always prepared.
Are you one of these people that think Batman can beat anybody with prepped on?
No, most people think I hate Batman.
Yeah,
There's
I'm a
certain characters I don't care how much he prepares, he's losing.
I love Batman. I grew up on Batman. I'm a huge Batman fan, but I will stand here to any day of any earth and say that there are definitely characters out there that Batman is not beating.
Yeah,
You know, there's
debate on beat
you know,
Kratos, and it's like I don't know.
no, yeah, exactly.
It's like I
How
don't
would
care how much you love Batman. I don't care how
yeah.
much he prepares. Kratos is killing him.
Yeah, there's a few characters I think I've listed that would definitely better beat Batman. There's no way
Yeah,
Batman's
man.
beating Kratos. There's no way Batman's beating anyone from like Naruto or anything like that. I think Goku would trump Batman as much as I don't like
Yeah,
Dragon Ball.
no diff.
But like Batman is a good character, but he's definitely not beating everybody. How would your characters fare against Kratos? Is anyone beating Kratos?
Uh, the only characters that are in that realm, I would say, is Lady Monarch, and but yeah, Kratos is a tough one, man. But Lady Monarch is the only one that I would say is even in that conversation because Lady Monarch is our Wonder Woman. She's
Yeah.
the full god with the god killing weapons. So that's the only I would put her against them, and then my character Decimus, I could put him against them. But most of them are a little bit more. My characters are more city level, street city. I don't have anyone that's powerless, but I don't have too many characters that are like universe destroyers either. You know
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I mean? Like I'm kind of like in the middle.
So you're kind of like an amalgamation of street level characters like the Bat Family, Daredevil, that sort of stuff, but just with a twinge, kind of like a hint, like a note of like, mutations, metahumans, sort of like, you're kind of like a nice little combination of those two sort of levels of, characters.
Yeah, I like to look at it as Mortal Kombat, where anybody could beat
Yeah.
anybody depending on the day. And they're all powered, but they're not like ridiculous.
So you've mentioned Mortal Kombat a few times, and in Mortal Kombat, people kill people. Would you ever kill off one of your characters, or
Yeah,
are you
absolutely.
yeah? Are you going to be one of those people that like find a way to bring the character back to life? Or are you one of these people that stick with if that character's dead, that character stays dead?
I mean, sometimes they're gonna come back in a different saga, but for the most part, yeah, if you're dead, you're dead.
What's your thoughts on the fact that comic books like kill off characters, then find a really stupid way to bring them back? Like, are you a fan of it, or would you rather, if someone kills off a character, that character kind of stays dead for the most part?
It's pretty annoying depending. You know what I mean? So I'm not a fan of like there's the multiverse, so now they're back a different way. Like that gets annoying to me. Um, it depends. I understand it, but I would much rather it be just a continuous story.
Yeah.
Without that character. Now, like I said, there could be some sort of return, but if it was to return, it would be different. Like Sub-Zero comes back as Noob Saibot or something like that. But
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not a fan of like magic solves everything and here we are again type of thing.
Yeah, it definitely gets old rather quickly. So we've mentioned Mortal Kombat, we've mentioned God of War, so that kind of brings me to my next question. Have you ever thought about Impound becoming a video game?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started off early on with a mobile game, but it was just a 2D game. Eventually, I would want like a game that's like Mortal Kombat, like a full 1v1 type game. I think that would be dope. But yeah, up the road, I'm hoping to have everything that the big universes have. I would like that as well.
So you'd go down the fighting game route. Would the characters have like finishing moves? Like, how do you kind of see this like fighting game going?
Um, Probably not finish a move because that would be too much of a blatant copy copycat, but it would still be a open world Street Fighter. Like the new Street Fighter, you can just be out fighting random people. I think that would be cool, but still have the traditional 1v1 version as well.
Yeah. So, would you ever consider doing like video games based on just like one of your characters? Like, you know how we've got an Avengers game, but we've also got a Spider-Man game. Would you ever consider a game dedicated to one of your characters?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I think that'd be dope. I think just as many as we can.
Yeah. Because
Like
like you've
story
got
mode,
yeah, that's what it
multiverse.
was.
I mean, multiplayer. I think that I would love that all.
Because you've got an assassin, so you could always do like a stealth game, and stuff like that. You've definitely got an array of different characters. There's all sorts of stuff you could do. Would you ever consider doing a video game only character that is part of the Impound universe, but it's only in the video games?
Yeah, for sure. Or
Yeah.
like the character joining the Mortal Kombat game. I think that would be dope.
Oh, if you could pick one of your characters to be a guest character in Mortal Kombat, which character would you pick?
Um, Mortal Kombat, I might pick Seraph, but if not Seraph, Impound or Blast It. But I think Seraph would probably be my ideal first pick.
So obviously Mortal Kombat is very like bloody, gory, that sort of stuff. So it works with like kind of like your way of the way that you designed your characters. But then you've got games like Injustice, which is made by the same people as Mortal Kombat, but that isn't gory. So if you had a game like Street Fighter or Injustice, would your choice change, or would you still pick Seraph?
Yeah, I'd probably still pick him, but it would. I think Impound would be my first pick for those other two. But if they want it would depend on who they're asking me for. Honestly, you know what I mean. If that's who they want, that's who they're getting.
Fair enough. Would you ever consider doing like a live action version of Impound? Because obviously you're doing an animated movie, but that's animation. Would you ever consider like a live action?
Live action is the ultimate goal of it all.
Yeah,
Just takes a much bigger budget,
of
so
course. Yeah.
up the road. But yeah, that's the we made it goal.
So you said that where you're from, it has inspiration in your comics and stuff. Would you want like that also to be kind of like inspiration into actors that play your characters in the live action? Would you want there to be a connection to where you're from, or would you be willing to like be okay if, like, for example, the actor for Impound isn't from where you're from or something, like, as long as he fits kind of like the look at least?
Yeah, I wouldn't care about that. Whoever does the role the most justice would be who I would prefer.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm gonna sit here and wait for the day where I see the fact that you said that there's video games and live action stuff, and I'm here rooting for you for sure.
I appreciate it, man. One day, I don't know when it's gonna be, but it's definitely gonna happen.
Well, these things are grind, aren't they? That's the thing.
It takes time, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So so you said that you started. When did the very first comic book come out again?
November of 2020.
So that's, call it 3 years and a half at this point, as of recording this. So I mean, you've got quite a few comic books out. You've introduced quite a few characters already and stuff. So that's not too bad. That's not too shabby for 3 years and a half. That's pretty decent, actually.
Thank you, brother. Putting it together, man.
Yeah, you definitely got that grind. I mean, you definitely got that like passion. You can kind of see that by how much you. 3 years is very impressive, actually. Thinking about it.
Thank you. Yeah. One day at a time, man. I think we made a lot of progress in a short amount of time. Due to just like a lot of it. For one, I come from the world of promotion, so I'm really good at organizing and getting things out into the world. And I think just the time that I spent having to think about all of my characters also made when I was ready to do it faster. I didn't think of it and try to put it together immediately. I let it sit in my brain a few years until I had it all figured out.
So we've talked about people drawing, Impound and your characters and stuff. What if somebody wanted to like do a audio drama, for example, and they wanted to kind of like, I don't know, do a crossover between Impound and Marvel or Impound and DC? Would they have to ask your permission, or would you be down for these little content creators kind of like using Impound and stuff?
You're talking about like on a YouTube channel?
Yeah, like on YouTube and on
I mean,
Spotify and things.
there wouldn't be anything I could do about that. I would be for one, I'd be down, so it wouldn't even matter. But even if I wasn't down, you can't stop them.
True. I'd
But,
like to think out of
like, I would
respect.
be completely. I would think that that's super fire if somebody was doing that.
I'd like to think out of respect. At least someone would ask. Somebody did have
and
the
a good
idea.
amount of people do. But yeah, it's they have free range to make fan content and fan art and fan things, regardless. And I mean, there's no point of being upset about it because it can happen anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
no point of putting anger into it. It's still gonna happen.
yeah. So you're 3 years. You've got loads of comics out. That's really good. Can you kind of like explain to the people who want to make comics or thought about it, what's the process, what's the best way, what's the best mindset, how is actually getting your comic book to shelves, to people, the business side of it for a minute? That's kind of what I want to delve into. Can you kind of give us a bit of insight on the business side of things? How difficult is it, that sort of stuff?
I mean, promotion is 90% of your business, so you gotta have a lot of content, a lot of marketing every single day. If you don't do it every single day, it won't happen. So, that's the reality. Your story can be as great as you want it to be, but if no one reads it, no one knows. So you gotta get creative. You gotta have content. You gotta try to get your platform big on all platforms. It's the only way it happens, unfortunately.
So like it would be, Instagram, TikTok, that sort of stuff. Promote yourself.
You
That sort of
gotta
thing.
turn yourself into a marketing genius.
So what about things like illustrators and stuff like that? How easy was it for you to find people that you're like not only you willing to work with, but people willing to work for you?
It's easy to find illustrators. It's not easy to find reliable ones. So illustrators are everywhere. You can if you go on Upwork, hashtag comic art, you'll find a ton of them. But finding people that are possibly also affordable and people that won't flip on you in the middle of a book, because a book can take months. So it's hard. It's not hard to find illustrators, but it's hard to find good people.
Yeah, that's I think that's one of the downfalls into doing this sort of thing, isn't it? Is that you've got to put your trust in people, and sometimes
absolutely.
it doesn't work.
Yeah, and it's not going to work as a good amount of times. And understanding that before you start, that everyone doesn't care about your project as much as you do. Now illustrators approach me all the time. So it's easy now, but I fortunately got really lucky in the beginning and found a really reliable illustrator early on who is still my illustrator to this day. So that was a blessing already. But I've worked with a ton of different illustrators that are nowhere near as professional as him. So, fortunately, like I said, I got a good guy, but most of them aren't.
Yeah, that's like you said, you're lucky to have. So and it's really, really impressive that you've still got the same person. There happens a lot of times where you've got artists not working very well with people, directors not working well with people, stuff like that. It happens. It is a good thing that you've still got the same. You can trust these people. You worked with them for a while and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a blessing.
So with Impound, your stories and stuff. We're now in April. What's coming up for the rest of the year? What's kind of like your plan? Do you have like any places you're going to promote the book? Is anything coming out that we can know about? Obviously, if you can't know about it, that's fine too. But like, what's happening from now to 2025?
I definitely try to go to as many conventions as possible. I think my biggest goal is taking over the internet this year on top of just the continuous work on our animated movie. But my goals right now is um getting out some more books, but also just building out our brand on all platforms. So our podcast has become a heavy part of our brand.
Yeah, I've seen clips of your podcast. What made you go down the podcast route?
Just trying to build out YouTube, finding out other content that I can do to keep growing. As long as it's in the same genre and the same audience, it still brings people to our universe. I might not be on the podcast forever, but the podcast can still go forever.
Yeah, very true.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when it comes to you said you like going to conventions and stuff. Have you ever been able to get like your own stalls, like your own like tables and things?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I just go and do content, but I've done both. I think more so now I'm more into the content side than I am into trying to be a vendor. Vendors, vending and all that can become very expensive. Where I can reach more people just online than I will standing at a table.
Yeah, of course. So, would you ever like consider, I don't know, traveling the world to for Impound, conventions and things, or are you kind of like limited to kind of where you're at?
No, I would love to travel the world and promote. Just you being able to have the budget to do it is the issue.
Yeah.
But absolutely, I would love it.
Yeah, it's just like I live in the UK, and we don't really get many. There's plenty of conventions. I went to my first Comic Con a couple months ago. I'm going to another Comic Con in August, but like, there's never really any. I don't know, people like you, trying to promote comic books and their own stuff. And I think that if you were able to at one point, come to the UK or Europe or wherever you could go, I think there'd definitely be people out there that would see you as an indie company with an indie title, and there are definitely some people I know that would definitely go, oh, I want to see that. I want to know what that is. I think indie comic books are actually getting really big at the minute. I think people are getting bored of Marvel and DC, and people are after things like Spawn and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle because they're not as big. Then that really helps the indie companies as well, because Marvel and DC, no offense, have kind of dropped a little bit over the last couple of years. Movies, TV shows, and comic books, they're not all fantastic. So I think that's actually kind of helping people like you in a sense, in a way.
No, I think so. I tell you that all the time. I say, hey, if they have a bad movie, it doesn't bother me. As much as I want to see a good movie, I know that a bad movie will definitely help people keep looking for other resources in this space, us included.
Yeah. So, have you seen like any indie comic books that you think that people should go read as well, including Impound? Is there any content creators that you want to mention that make?
There are a lot of them, yeah. So I'm definitely friends with King Lion. There's Godhood Comics, Concrete Comics, Shape Comics. There's a good amount of us out there. It's been dope to see other people growing. There's a bunch. Eminent Comics. Trying to think of them all off the top of my head. I'm not gonna be able to name everybody, but yes, there's the people are out there.
Yeah, of course.
It's just them trying to get the exposure, trying to find them. It's still the thing we're all figuring out, but there's a lot of great people.
Yeah, I think King Lion's on my bucket list as well for interviewing. I think that's actually how I found you. Actually, was originally because I followed King Lion, and then I can't remember if King Lion stitched you or something like that, but it brought me to find you, and that's when I found about Impound. I was like, okay, that's also kind of cool.
Right.
So it's actually yeah, I think King Lion's definitely on my list as well.
Yeah, no, King Lion's a good dude, man.
Yeah, he
Very
gets.
knowledgeable in the comic space.
I was gonna say he gets a lot of slack. He gets a lot of like people throwing shade, but you listen to the man talk, and like I've actually Googled what he's talking about, and I'm like, okay, I want to see if this man's legit, and he's actually 100% correct. I'm reading stuff that parallels to what he's talking about. I'm like, well, the man knows his stuff, you know?
Yeah, no, he definitely does. I mean, a lot of the times it's a lot of people who just like in this comic space, everyone's a smart ass. You know what I mean?
Oh
So
yeah.
people just want a challenge, and he's not opposed to it. So it's all good fun at the end of the day. But some people get a little too upset in the comic space.
Yeah, and it's just like, people. I got a lot of hate once because I said that I'm not a fan of Batman versus Superman, and I'm not a fan of that betrayal of those two characters. And I got so much slack for it. It was unreal. I think that's like my most hated video on TikTok.
Yeah, and people are gonna hate stuff no matter what. So it just is what it is.
Yeah, for
People,
sure.
the people who truly love stuff don't comment. I've learned
Yeah.
that. No, the real love are the people who comment positive stuff all the time. But most of the people who like your stuff, they just like it, like the video, and keep scrolling. They're not the ones that are the avid. Oh, you know what I mean? They either love you or hate you. That's the only options in there. There's not too many in the middle.
Yeah. Do you have followers on TikTok or Instagram where if their name pops up, you know who they are because they've been around and been supporting you? You may not know them in person, but you
Yeah, no,
recognize
I
their
know a
name.
person. Yeah, there's a good group of people that I know them just by their handle. There's gonna be like the same 10 people who join every live that I've done.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like there's on all platforms. I know the main supporters on each of my platforms.
Yeah, that's what I mean by like, you're definitely walking down the right route where, you, like you said, there's 5-10 people where you go live, they're going to pop up, that that they're going to say hi, their handle names, stuff like that. And it just proves, how well you're doing. 3 years, several comic books, one animated movie in the works. People recognize your name. People recognize, your face when it comes to comic books and talking about things. I watched one of your TikToks this morning where it's a picture of Homelander and Omni-Man, I think it was, and they're walking towards the Marvel universe, and you're talking about, them fighting the whole Marvel universe. And before you even popped on screen, I knew it was you, just instantly. Like, you just can tell, that
Yeah,
sort of thing.
no way.
And it's just like, you definitely. Yeah, it praise to you, man, for getting that far that quick. 3 years may be a lot to some people, but in the business world, it's nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
To you, it may be a grind, which is fair because, you're an indie comic company trying to get off the ground. That's completely fair enough. But from someone on the outside looking in, 3 years have flown by for me personally, and 3 years comes and goes, so, all credit to you, to be honest.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no worries. So when it comes to Impound, the company and things like that, what's been the hardest thing to do? What's been like the one thing that's kind of not brought you down, but might have dragged you down a little bit, stunted you a little bit? What's been the most, I guess, what's been the one thing that's taught you the biggest lesson when it comes to, being an indie comic book company?
The hardest thing with starting a business is always going to be the finances.
Yeah, that's
having
very
the
true.
money to continue. That is the toughest part. Being able to be financially secure so that you can stay creative. That's a big barrier, and it's a barrier that everyone has to prepare themselves for. If you're fortunate enough to start off with a big budget, that's good for you. Most of us are only funding with our own money, and grinding that part out is the hardest part.
Yeah, that's I think when it comes to finance, I've spoken to a few people on this podcast, other small time comic book creators that haven't got as far as you, people trying to do their own thing, and finance is the one thing that's kind of stunted them. And sadly, we live in that sort of world, don't we? We live in the world where, if you want to do something creative, fun, people enjoy, you kind of need a bit of money attached to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's money rules the world, man.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, for sure. So with your characters, like all the characters that you've got, whether they're little or small, do you have like a character that I wouldn't say that you're I guess the best way to ask this question is take away Impound, because I'm assuming that would be your answer. Take away him to one side. Is there like a character of yours that's like, your favorite child? Like, like just the one that you just like adore the most?
I like Price Jones the most out of all my characters when people usually ask. Price Jones and Lady Monarch are my two favorite characters.
Fair. Yeah, I like the look of Christ Jones. I think he'd fit very well into characters like Tobias Whale, Kingpin. I think he kind of fits that sort of like genre character very well.
Yeah, for sure. There were definitely inspirations of them going into him.
Yeah, I can kind of see Kingpin kind of being an inspiration for him. More just for the way that like he poses, the way that like you've drawn him stood, the way that he looks very menacing. Kingpin also has that kind of like vibe about him. I think that's how I took it anyway. So we are coming to a close. I'll let you go soon. Thank you so much for obviously coming on and chatting with me about Impound. It's fantastic what I've read so far. What I've seen so far. So I'll let you kind of tell people where they can come find you, where people can go to, listen to your podcast and where they can buy the book and all that sort of stuff. So the stage is yours, where can people find you and all
that? You can find us on our personal website, which is impoundcomics.com. Our social app for everything is at Impound Comics. We're decently big on every platform, and a lot of the content is different, so follow us on all of that. But our personal website is the best place to see what we have going on.
Yeah, I've actually that's actually how I found out that you that's the best way that I found out more information about you, to be fair. You've also got you've actually got a link tree as well, don't you? For people
so
that
all
want
of
to
our
find
social media ads has the link tree, and the link tree also is still Impound Comics when you get to it. But yeah, the link tree will take you to everything.
I just thought I'd mention that because you've got your YouTube channel, your TikTok, your Instagram. If people want to find you on different things, some people only stick to one social media platform, which is fair.
I don't think that's the smart approach.
No, I mean? Definitely not. No, yeah,
you gotta be big on all platforms.
Yeah, I've started. I actually roundabout just kind of sort of finished my link tree the other day. I'm starting to go on different platforms, promote my podcast. I've now just started using Instagram a bit more. I never really touched Instagram, so like, right, okay, let's go on Instagram. Let's promote on Instagram a bit more. I know for a fact when I make the picture for this specific podcast, it'll be put on Instagram first and things like that. I'm learning that too. So I'm new to this, so I'm getting there.
It's all good. You still got time.
Yeah. I'll have to have you on again, December, January time. I want you to come on in a 10 to 11 months. I want to see, what's different between now and then. I want to talk to you about, what you've kind of done in the year and stuff. We're only in April. We're only 4 months in. That's nothing. It's gone quick, but it's still nothing. So I want to see.
Yeah, we still got plenty of time.
Yeah, so like, I want you on, within the next year or so we can chat about, what you've done, what you've managed to do, how the animation movies come along and stuff, if you're willing to.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just let me know.
Yeah, man. Cheers. All right then. Well, thank you very much for coming on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Like I said, I had a bucket list of like who I'd want on, and you were one of the top people for sure. So it's been an absolute. It's
But
been an
nah, man,
absolute.
I thank you for having me on. We'll talk again soon. Let me know when the episode is aired. I'll
Yeah, of course.
share it up, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Again, I've been talking to Brent, Impound Comics. It's been an absolute blast. And don't forget to follow us on all the platforms on where you can listen to your podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I've been your host, Ty Tiger, and I shall see you guys in the next one.
This podcast is a production of the Three Ranger Bros Studios, in association with Zio to Hero, the podcast.